Hello, everyone. My name is Paul Roback, and I am the chair of the ESP Professional Development Committee. Thank you for joining us today for our webinar on Get the Dish Collaboration to Extend Extension's Educational Reach. A few housekeeping things for you. Uh, First of all, a friendly reminder that if you'd like to present in our next upcoming webinar series, or if you'd like to present at the national conference, those RFP deadlines are coming up on March 1st for both of those. So I'll put that in the chat uh, box so you have that, and then you can reference that later. You should have received an email on that. I'll also do that at the end of today's presentation as well. And another bit of housekeeping, our presenters asked that if you do have questions and you put them in the chat box, they'll be responding to the questions at the end of the presentation because some of those questions may be answered throughout their presentation. Today's presentation is being recorded, and after the session, we'll get it up on our YouTube channel, and we will email you a link to the presentation and materials. Again, remember that you can submit your RFP, your proposals to present at upcoming webinars and also the national conference. With that, I'd like to turn it over to today's presenters, and we have several of them, and I'll introduce Surine Greenway from the Idaho Theta chapter of ESP. Surine, you can take it away.
Oh, hi there, everyone. I'm hoping that you can see my screen that is sharing our presentation that Paul just introduced. So I am Surine Greenway from University of Idaho, as Paul just shared. And today I'm also joined by two of our team members. I share that because as we go throughout, you'll find that we actually have 9 team members who have been a part of this fantastically fun project. So with that, I'll let Amy and Abby introduce themselves.
Hello, I'm Amy Robertson, also with the University of Idaho Extension.
Hi, I'm Abby Weber, and I'm with Colorado State University Extension.
So with that, we are representing 2 of the 5 different institutions who are a current part of this project. So, or program, I keep calling it a project. But with that, we're going to share with you today how this program came to be, what are some of the steps that we used for that. We're then going to be talking about the actual nitty-gritty of how we managed that. And then we're going to share with you some of the impact. And then as Paul shared, we will hold those questions until the end, just because they might come up as we're presenting. But just to give you an overview of how this all started is back in, I want to say it was 2021, where Bradley Averill from University of Georgia established an online 30 for 30 walkaway program and invited extension professionals from across the US to participate. And luckily, Amy Robertson and I were able to join that program and participate in a really collaborative program with a lot of different components. And we loved it. We had a great time. We, to this day, are participating on the 30 for 30 program. And from that came this natural desire to fill your bucket again. You know, oh, we had so much fun. We were able to partner with so many different extension professionals that we may not have met otherwise. How do we, you know, reestablish that fire, that definite in that new program, filling that need to be creative and establish something new? And through that came the brainstorm that Amy Robertson and I, we both do a lot of food safety, but we also do health and nutrition. And so how do we marry those 2 topics to bring that timely food safety and health and nutrition content to individuals? And so with that, we started brainstorming that, oh, it'd be so fun to do a cooking show style program. Now, in theory, it was a lot easier said than done because we do not have a cooking show media team to help put that on. And so with that, to be clear, our initial brainstorm idea in theory was phenomenal. And we were going to be cooking show hosts, every single one of us who joined our team. However, in implementation, it is a bit different. However, we did structure our program to have a lecture or presentation. We want to make sure that while we're having fun in this, we're still weaving in those foundational concepts when it comes to food handling, food safety, food preparation, and that we are incorporating that health and nutrition so that we can really highlight the different key areas that we try to reach our clientele with. And so we were brainstorming this program during ELC, during Extension Leadership Conference in the spring of 2023. And so with that, we started targeting individuals that we met while we were at Extension Leadership Conference. We met someone and we're like, they're fun. We should have them join this team. And so we worked to share our vision in that. And so as you see, I just want to highlight that, it really started from having a really successful and enjoyable partnership collaboration here with 30 for 30. And then here below is actually a photo from one of our presentations. This is Elizabeth Renfro from University of Tennessee, as she is demonstrating one of the components from her lesson on old school cafeteria rolls. And then while I'm jumping ahead here, we've also throughout this whole time frame, we've been working to retain our team. So with that, individuals sometimes leave a program because, shifting priorities with their work flow and other programs. In our case, we did have 2 team members who had joined our team in 2023, but they actually left Extension. And so we did, again, go back to the drawing board, and we had targeted recruitment to educate and share that vision and recruit new team members to fill those spots. And so that's how we were actually in 2024. We added an institution with Abby joining our team and representing Colorado, which was not a part of this program in 2023. And with that, as I shared with all of you, the foundational desire and vision that we were sharing with our team members as we recruited them was that we wanted to make sure that health and nutrition and food safety were at the forefront of this fun, cooking show style program that we wanted to implement. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Abby, who's going to talk about the next steps once we got our team members on board.
So once our team members got on board, we were able to utilize like online and computer applications, so online platforms and computer applications that helped us all get connected and stay connected, no matter what institution that we were at. And we were able to all access each other's materials and support what we were doing through the use of things like Google Slides, Google Drive, Canva. Marketing, we used things like Facebook. Everybody used the same PowerPoint presentation, and we'll get to that here shortly. We used Zoom, not only to present, but to connect for our own planning process. And then YouTube, of course, once we were finished, for participants and team members to be able to access once we were done. And so by utilizing these online platforms and computer applications, our multi-state team was really able to follow kind of a format. It was beneficial to our virtual cooking program because we all had access to it at any time, again, regardless of what institution we were at. And then we ensured that every lesson was recorded, which Zoom was able to allow us to do that. We did some light editing, and then again, we were able to post those lessons for reference later on. Next one, Surine. So Google Drive, this was kind of where we started. Google Drive was where we housed our Google Sheets and our outline of the intention of our program to start with. The great part about this was that as a newcomer for me, I was able to see what was done before and what people were planning to do this year. And that kind of drove decisions in what I intended to design for my workshop as a instructor this year. So, or in 2024. I guess we're in 2025 already, right? It's a soft start. It's a soft start to the new year. So all of the team content was hosted on this Google Drive, and everybody had access to it. There were no access concerns for any institution, again, because it was a Google Sheet on the Google Drive. We could establish an outline for the program. We could track our dates, the titles of our programs, and descriptions. That way nobody was overlapping. And if anybody wanted to piggyback off of a previous workshop, it kind of designed our time frame also. It was able to help us ensure that individuals would see other topics and the content would be that they'd be presenting. It was also useful to track and contact participants with upcoming content. So the prior presenter could discuss what we've already covered, topics that people might have missed, and maybe enticing topics that might be coming up in the next learning sessions. And it was a great resource for outreach amongst us as presenters when we needed to contact each other, or if links didn't work, or who would be supporting who for our chat helper, or again, we could piggyback off of programs that either had been done the prior year or that might be happening this year, and we might have something to go along with that. So the Google Drive was where it all kind of started, easy access, and definitely a foundation for every one of us presenters. Okay, Surine, next one, please. Oh, Canva. Canva was what we used for our marketing materials. Again, something that everybody can access. And the great thing about Canva is you can share the links to, and we could change things if we needed. It was easily updatable and easy to share on online marketing platforms. So Canva is what we used for our Get the Dish marketing. And gosh, Canva can be used for just about anything now, but that's where we started with our marketing. Again, easy to share, easy to make sure everybody's content was on there, and also easy to make sure that we could logo with everybody's information. Okay. Then each lesson included not only a lecture, but a demonstration portion. And the lecture was done with a design on PowerPoint or slides, Google Slides that we could all use that were universally logoed, which was really helpful already. So the template was there. We all just could fill in our content. And it made it a lot easier and a lot more uniform when we were presenting, so that it was all coming from the same Get the Dish program. So this part was fantastic and really easy, again, easy access and easy to fill in. And then once we created the PowerPoint presentation, we were able to share that presentation. It was all housed in the Google section again for us, so everybody else could access it also, which was really handy. And then we used Zoom, of course, to host our presentation for the live format. And during that live session, there was a presenter, a chat helper, who was actually a different team member, and they were going to be presenting on a different day. So another thing that was fantastic about that is I could see how, me personally, I could see how somebody else used their Google Slides and presented before I actually jumped on and did mine, since I was a new member this year or a new presenter this year. And it was also really helpful in ease of access and ease of presentation. So I loved the uniformity of it, and Google Slides really kind of kept us on track for that in the PowerPoint. again, if I had any trouble in the Zoom presentation, I could very easily, or somebody else rather, could very easily pick it up because of the availability that it was all in one location. So this was not only ease of access, but ease of presentation. Okay. And then each of the lessons was recorded. It was very lightly edited by the University of Idaho's College of Agriculture and Life Sciences team or communications team, and it included a uniform intro and a uniform closing. And then it was posted to a YouTube playlist. And the great part about that is if people were registered, but they were unable to attend for some reason, they could go back and watch the recording. And those who wanted to watch it a second time could also do that. And those of us who presented could go back and watch it also. So for all of those reasons, uploading to YouTube felt really necessary. And it's a great additional component to our Get the Dish workshops. Also, if someone wanted to search and view these workshops, they're able to after we present, which is great, or after they're posted. They're also really easy to share and follow, and it gives us some great insight on the back end. For those of us who do reporting, it's really nice to see who goes back in and access the materials that we're presenting or who might be searching for the content that we're providing. So it really felt like a necessary component to upload to these YouTube channels also. All right.
So thank you, Abby. So I know Abby has shared quite a bit with you that format, that lecture. So wanting to start with a presentation that was done with that PowerPoint that had uniform branding. So we were always representing each institution participating in this work. But with that lecture, we have the objectives being shared, and making sure that those are going to be shared out even after it's recorded. We have no interaction with our participant who's viewing it later on. One thing that was really nice is after these were posted, they were shared as a follow-up with participants, whether they registered and didn't attend like Abby shared, whether they attended and wanted to watch it again, or if they were just doing a YouTube or a search online for the presentation. Another thing too, though, is months later, these videos can be shared for social media promotion. Sometimes someone might be doing an in-person hands-on class and they want to promote it with a little teaser. And so that's something that with these videos being hosted online, they're still accessible even after the fact. But with that, after the lecture or presentation component, then each team member was also doing a demonstration or an activity. And so if you can see here in the bottom video, this is Keishon from University of Georgia doing her lecture component. And then in this top video, this is an example of Katie doing her demonstration component, showing that to that viewer. As I shared, the cooking school aspect, it was a little more romanticized in the brainstorm portion of our program than in the implementation, because there are so many limitations when it comes to camera use. But some of those demonstrations or activities, if you saw in that slide that we just went past with Jennifer Brown from North Carolina, she was talking about spices and really talking about reducing that sodium and infusing the flavor through spices. And so her activity was really walking participants about the best way of storing and managing those spices so they can turn to those rather than the salt shaker when they're cooking up a snack or a meal. With that, the whole purpose of the demonstration or the activity was intended to implement what we're talking about in that lesson, so some action. Some of our components, an example would be in 2023, there was a Don't Be So Brittle About It program that was emphasizing candy making, which can be very tricky. When we talk brittle, it's very time and temperature sensitive. And so that team member, Jennifer Renfro, she actually worked to, Elizabeth Renfro, excuse me, from University of Tennessee, she worked to pre-record some of the components of her presentation so that she would not have to worry that she's burning her brittle while she's teaching live, or that it's at the wrong stage as she's presenting. So dependent on someone's topic, and if it had very sensitive components, they maybe were prepping items beforehand, or they were pre-recording sections so that it encompassed the recipe. It met its intended purpose of walking through a recipe with some of our participants, but making sure that it would also be quality and maybe not a bit of a cluster as we're presenting live. And so, for example, with Elizabeth, she pre-recorded a calibrating your thermometer component, and then she also pre-recorded different stages of the brittle making, while then highlighting the final stage. It's hardened now, this is what you do with it. And so she could talk about that candy making from start to finish within that 1 hour time frame that we host these lessons. And then with that, one thing that we haven't shared with you is that at each of our lessons hosted via Zoom, as Abby shared, is we implemented poll questions. So at every single one, we had as someone who was introducing the topic, we had an introductory poll question. And then as we're closing out, a closing poll question, so that each presenter could capture some polling information on that captive audience for them to track for reporting purposes, gather a little bit of data. And then with that closeout, we always implemented the flyer, the marketing flyer that Abby talked about that we formed through Canva. And so we were always promoting at the closeout. We were grabbing these polls, but we were also saying, hey, have you registered for the upcoming class? Next week, this is the topic. If you have not registered, do so here, sending a link. So making it very easy to influence that captive audience to continue participating in our series. And so with that, the last thing is there was always a follow-up email. So the lessons took place on a Tuesday afternoon. And as you can see, even in the outline, we made sure to include the different time zones because our team is from across the United States. And so making sure that we're presenting at the right time can sometimes be confusing, making sure to market it for your clientele. So we had the uniform flyer, but team members could go in and change the time frame specific to their location. But the flyer as well had different time zones so that we could manage the fact that we were in every location. And then we had a follow-up email that went out once the recording was edited and hosted on YouTube. So if someone registered but didn't attend, they still received all of the same material. We also sent emails to participants and presenters ahead of the lesson. So typically the Friday before. And that way, here's an example of a recipe that someone may get the Friday before the lesson so that they know what they signed up for, so they know what's coming ahead. A little bit of a sneak peek, a teaser. This went out ahead of time, and then following the presentation and when the video was edited and hosted online, we did a follow-up. Hey, just a reminder, next week lesson is this. By the way, if you want to watch the presentation again, or if you didn't have a chance, here's where you can view it online. And so we had a great response to that in order for those participants that know that they are unavailable during the time of the program to attend live, but still wanting to participate and wanting to capture a little bit of information on our participants, as once someone's watching that recording on YouTube, we don't have the capability to collect as much information on them, including their email, connect with them, and provide a follow-up survey. So we incentivize registration by letting them know all of the components that they can access, even if they can't attend live. And then in addition to the poll questions, the immediate post-program evaluation that we did. So in that follow-up email, there was also a post-program evaluation. We would share it in the chat while we had the captive audience, like, hey, following today, if you want to give us some feedback, we'd appreciate it. We incentivized that survey completion by offering prizes specific to the lesson. So for example, if they are attending a Dutch oven cooking lesson today, they may be incentivized to fill out that survey by knowing that they can be entered into a drawing to receive a Dutch oven cookie. Things of that nature. So things that were relevant. Sometimes it was just maybe a gift card to an online retailer, so that there was some buy-in for them to maybe give us that feedback for the presentation. And then in just a moment, when Amy presents, she'll share some of the impact data that we were able to capture from our surveys. But at the beginning of 2024, so as Abby shared with you, we implemented this program in the fall of 2023, and then again in the fall of 2024. So we're in 2025, but we're talking about something that concluded just a few months ago. But at the beginning of 2024, we wrote a University of Idaho impact statement that highlighted this collaboration, the purpose. And one thing that I failed to mention is that with the purpose of this program, we being when Amy and I kind of really started throwing ideas at the wall with establishing this, we saw the highlights of that national collaboration with 30 for 30, but also how that occurred online. We removed those barriers for participation by making it free, making it online and accessible, and hosting recordings so that it wasn't time sensitive necessarily. And then individuals, if they were maybe they had a lower income bracket, they were still able to participate if they're able to hop on Zoom, if they're able to access YouTube. So we really wanted to reduce those barriers for individuals receiving this research-based content that we were providing each week. And then by hosting all of the components in Google Drive, Abby shared that, there was the outline. It really hosted information from 2023, 2024, not just program topics, so that we weren't two educators choosing the same program topic. But in addition to that, knowing the description, knowing the materials, and we hosted those materials, as Abby shared, like the PowerPoint, the handouts, and other team members could benefit from that. So for example, I know that there was a slow and easy slow cooker presentation in 2023, and a different team member who did not teach that lesson was able to benefit from that presentation materials by reaching out to the lead presenter for that topic, saying, hey, can I use these? Can I adapt these? As long as I give you credit. I too was able to benefit from the don't be so brittle about it. I taught an in-person hands-on candy making class in February of 2024. So a few months after Elizabeth had taught that program in the Get the Dish. And I asked her, can I use your materials as long as I credit you? And I was able to use her candy thermometer calibrating video. I was able to use some, as she talked about the difference in elevation and how that can impact things such as your candy making. And so it really benefited me as a colleague that I didn't have to reinvent the wheel. I made sure to give credit to that team member who developed that material, but I was able to benefit greatly by using that with my live audience later on. And so just to give you a quick, I guess, the impact or the quick stats, if you will, but in 2023, this team presented 9 program workshops. And in our live Zoom presentations, we had 314 participants representing 12 different states. And then in 2024, we also had 9 program workshops. We did have 277 live participants, and they were representing 13 different states across the nation. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Amy.
Right. Thank you, Surine. As Surine had mentioned, immediately following each individual program presentation, we did send out an evaluation to participants. Those incentive items really came in handy. It was also nice that we were able to announce at the next program who had won that past item, and get other people excited so that they would hopefully fill out the evaluation. We know dangling those carrots is so important. But having that consistency of making sure we got out those evaluation links right away, that we made sure to recognize the winners and get those to them in a timely manner. I think it really helped us have a pretty decent return rate on our evaluations. I know that's sometimes a struggle in extension to really get people to give us those needed surveys and evaluations. So in 2023, these immediate post-program, because I'll go over our 3-month follow-up in a little bit. We had 168 participants from 12 different states who completed these post-program surveys. The respondents were asked to rate their knowledge of the topics covered before and after participation in the program using a 10-point Likert scale. 1 was having no knowledge, and 10 being extremely knowledgeable. So prior to attending the class, the mean knowledge score was 4.77, and following the class, the mean knowledge score was 8.08. So we saw a significant increase in knowledge gained while participating in these classes. The evaluation also contained questions regarding usefulness, timeliness, and program satisfaction. So one of those 168, 109 of our participants responded that they were very satisfied with the program. 112 respondents stated that they felt the class was very useful to them, and 109 respondents felt the topic was very timely. 98% of respondents said they would recommend this series to others, and 95% said that they plan to attend this series in the future. In 2024, we had 106 overall respondents from 13 states complete the post-program survey. So 97% said they would recommend this class to others, and 96% plan to attend this series again in the future. Prior to attending the class, the mean knowledge score was 5.36, and following the class, the mean score was 8.34. So again, we saw a lot of increase in knowledge. As you can see here on the slide, so 70 respondents stated they were very satisfied, 76 found the class useful, 80 responded that the topic was very timely. So we got a lot of great positive feedback from participants. And with 2023 having such positive responses, that was part of the reason we decided let's do this again in 2024. Next slide. So luckily, with those different technology platforms we were able to use, it's been really easy to keep track of our attendance. So with our live attendees via Zoom, we could just run reports, see how many people attended. And then it's really nice to go into YouTube and see those numbers of people that have watched those videos after they've been posted. So in our original series in 2023, you could see we averaged, 30, 40 or so participants per individual class. But then once these got posted online onto YouTube, we could see that our audience more than doubled. So really making that accessible to people who weren't able to attend the class live, we were able to reach a much larger audience and expand the number of people that were getting to receive this information. And then in 2024, our number of live attendees was pretty similar. We did have our class, our old school cafeteria roles, due to an unforeseen circumstance. We weren't able to hold that class live. It was only a recorded class that went out to participants. So that, had a slight difference in our numbers. But given if we'd have been able to hold that class live, I would say or guesstimate that our numbers for live attendees would be pretty similar from 23 to 24. However, after this series had been around, people were more aware of it. We can see that even with our one outlier of that one class that has over 1,000 YouTube views, the others still have significantly more YouTube views than our 2023 class. So as this, we are getting more universities on board, we're able to spread the word more. I think that that's really helping get this series out to the public so people can look at it. Also, it is really a nice, handy tool, as Surine had mentioned, for educators to watch these, get some ideas on classes they might want to do hands-on for their own clientele in their community. So really, while a lot of this is focusing on those live attendees, we really can do a lot by making sure that we're having it accessible on YouTube for people to come back after the fact. Next slide. So 3 months after the series finished, in both after 2023 and after 2024, we sent out an email to all registered participants. So people that some either they had attended live or they'd watched YouTube videos. So anyone that had registered got this email, and then within that follow-up survey, they were able to let us know which lessons they had attended and which ones they attended live, which ones they watched via YouTube. And then they were able to rate their knowledge on what they have learned from that series. But then also it was nice to ask some questions and see, okay, we're 3 months out. Have you used this information? Because sometimes after, an hour or two after a class, maybe even a day or two, you think, oh yeah, I'm definitely going to use this information. But we all have the best intentions. So having this 3-month follow-up is nice because then we can see truly, did people learn some new recipes? Did they do what they intended? And so we could see that there was an increase in people who were using new recipes from these classes, or they were using a healthy meal tip, a healthy prep tip that they learned in that class. Maybe they learned a new skill for a different cooking method, and then they actually were applying that following this class. So it really was nice to have this 3-month follow-up to see that people truly were gaining knowledge and then using it later on, not just saying, oh, that was a great class, I plan to use it, and then never talking to them again. Again, we did use some dangled those carrots. We had some Amazon gift cards that we drew randomly, so that we know that people are more likely to fill out these surveys, especially a few months after the fact, if they have a chance to win. And so, I didn't mention in these 3-month follow-ups. So for 2023, we had 34 individuals from 8 states fill out that 3-month follow-up. And then in 2024, we had even more participants. So 44 participants from 11 states completed this 3-month follow-up survey. So I know sometimes it's hard to remember to do it 3 months out, but definitely when you're doing programs, you do want to have that follow-up to make sure that you are having that long-term impact and it's not a one and done and everyone's moving on and forgetting about it. Next one. So as Surine had mentioned, we started out with 9 educators from 4 different universities in the fall of 2023. And then 2 of those educators ended up leaving Extension for a variety of reasons. And we, after gaining feedback from participants and team members, it seemed like that 9-week series was really a good length of time. We started it in the fall, got done right before the holiday season. And we wanted to make sure that we could still offer a series that was that long. So again, we recruited, we found 2 more members to fill those vacant spots. And in doing so, we added another cooperative extension university. So we went from a team of 4 universities to 5. And with that, we have a wide variety of backgrounds, a wide variety of knowledge. So that's really helped us to offer a lot of different classes. One thing too in the follow-up surveys is we did ask after 2023, what are some topics you would like to see? So that did help us choose some of the topics for 2024. I know that's how the Dutch oven cooking, the outside Dutch oven cooking class I did. I know that was part of that. I think sourdough, I think that was listed as ideas that different people wanted to see. So again, making sure that we're going back to those participant evaluations and seeing what the clientele want has helped us shape this programming as we did it in 2024 and will also help shape it into the future. So we are, as Abby stated, we're in 2025 already. It's kind of crazy to believe we're already in our second month. But given the positive evaluations we've gotten for this program, especially all the views we've been getting on YouTube beyond just the live classes, we are looking into doing this program again in 2025 and gathering feedback as we determine what different topics we want to do and making sure that we are covering a wide variety of types of cooking and food preparation to meet the various needs of people across the nation. So with that, unless Surine, did I miss anything that you think we need to add?
I want to make sure I was muted or not.
Oh.
I think you've covered it all. I am going to make sure, I don't know where he just went. I have to stop share to see really quick, but I want to make sure I do share our contact information in case anyone is interested. But this is where, as Paul talked at the beginning, we would love to take the time to answer questions. I know we kind of threw it at you, but as we look at our series and our initial intent of doing a cooking show that infuses that health and nutrition, that food safety that's coming from a research-based background, that was always our goal. As we look at that as a team, we do feel that we have met that initial goal. So our goal was to make it timely, remove those barriers, and make sure that it's research-based. We wanted, we're not the Susie Q's homemade cooking show or even professional cooking show, but we are meeting that need with that research-based background. So we're excited. And I'll turn it over to Paul, as he might know of questions, or Yzette might know of any that may have come in during the chat.
Sure. We received a question. How did you finance the carrot gift cards?
Great question. So each team member committed to that portion of incentivizing. So the Amazon gift cards for the 3-month follow-up came out of program funds that Amy and I have here in Idaho, but each individual follow-up carrot, I love the wording we're using, but that came from each team contributor. So as you saw, one of the presentations had over 1,000 YouTube views, but when it was taught live and what was the incentive for avoid portion distortion, Keishon Thomas from University of Georgia, she provided that incentive of a little snack kit that the recipient, the random drawing recipient, would receive. The same with the Dutch oven cookbook that came from Amy Robertson, providing that from her program.
Thanks. Another question. At the beginning of your presentation, you highlighted different technology tools that you could use, like Google Drive, to do a multi-state educational program. Were there any unforeseen challenges you experienced as a result of doing a multi-state program?
So as Amy shared, our old school cafeteria roles, that presentation that was just due to an unforeseen circumstance, and luckily everything is okay with that individual. But because this is a live presentation, that is the challenge. It's not that there could be other challenges when you're using Zoom and your technology is not working, for example. But I would say my mind immediately goes to that we structured this to be live, and that each team member is bringing their expertise on their topic. But that doesn't mean that You know, say Amy is doing Dutch oven cooking today and she has an unfortunate circumstance and she personally needs to cancel today. It doesn't mean that I can step in and lead that for her, even with her pre-created PowerPoint. I had access to all those things, but I'm not teaching Dutch oven cooking, I'll tell you that much. And so with that, that is the limitation, that someone still needs to be present to put this on. That other team member, that chat helper, does need to be present live during that 1 hour time frame. So those are some challenges if something comes up.
But on the flip side, all of the different technologies we were able to use were all ones that we were able to utilize at no expense. So that, as we all know in Extension, most of us have some pretty tight budgets. So whenever we can utilize some sort of virtual program or platform or app that either is already part of one university or it's just available for free to the public, it did allow us to be very frugal in implementing this program and not creating barriers for participation to team members, because we all know we have different budgets, different restrictions within our universities. And so with using the different platforms that we used, everyone was able to participate and we really didn't run into any roadblocks that way. So that was very helpful as well.
Great, thanks for sharing that perspective. And then it looks like based on the chat, it was a good opportunity for your team members to learn from each other as well, how to use those technologies. Are there any other questions that participants have?
As we see if there's any other questions, one thing I would share is just the success that Amy and I encountered with 30 for 30 really drove our desire to do this program. The actual structure of this program mimicked a lot an internal program that we did here in Idaho, you and I together. It was something that really came off of COVID and that virtual teaching. And so we were very lucky to see the success from collaborating with colleagues from outside of our institution and how fun it was, but also echoing a format that we had implemented that did come with some internal funding at the time. So we were able to structure and follow some tools, formatting wise, but learned that, yeah, the incentives are great to be able to provide even materials for individuals, but not necessary in order to make it happen. So when we did you and I together, we did have that internal funding source. We provided the supplies for individuals to participate, but we had similar, if not more, success in this collaboration without that funding present, as Amy shared, but just from that desire for colleagues to join the cause, if you will.
Great, thanks for sharing that perspective. Sometimes we think our funding is a limitation, and turns out in this case it wasn't.
Not this time.
I'm not seeing any more questions in the chat. You've included your contact information so people can reach out directly to you as well. I'd like to thank our presenters today, Surine, Amy, and Abby, for their presentation for the ESP webinar. As I stated at the beginning of today's session, the RFPs are currently open for both the National ESP Conference and for the webinar series starting in the fall, and that deadline is March 1st. Our next webinar is March 10th, and the topic will be book clubs as a diversity, equity, and inclusion strategy, and that'll be presented by Jenna from the Alpha Eta chapter of Ohio. So with that, I'd like to conclude today's session.
Great.